Hi, everyone. We're going to keep you on gallery view for a little bit so you can scroll through and see everybody easily. This is such an amazing group. And I'm very impressed with everybody for figuring out the Zoom link. I looked at mine like 18 times and still couldn't find it. Gosh, look at all these people from my past too. This is so much fun. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Christine and Kara. This is such a great group. I was thinking I'm going to tell you all a little bit more about my story, but I was thinking Sarah, who's here from the SBA, was my business advisor a decade ago. And I remember going to them and realizing, oh my God, these are free services. These are things that other people are selling. Hi, Kelly. Gwen. You guys, so I don't know how many of you have retail fronts of any kind, but mine used to come in, like every sale that I made would like come in on my phone, and it was always so exciting. And I felt exactly the same way about seeing all of your registrations. It'd be like, oh, this person is coming and this person is coming. I was genuinely hoping to get 5 to 10 people on this call because I know how hard it is to make this time. So this turnout is incredible. And we are just I'm gonna sort of talk for a couple minutes because people are coming on. So exciting to have to scroll to 2 screens to see everyone. Hi, Adeline and Christine. It's always so fun to see everyone's homes too. Great. My goodness. There's a great diversity from across the state too, which is really, really exciting. Maria, is there anybody else in the waiting room right now? I think I can probably get started.
I think we're good.
Okay, great. Maria has already made magic happen for me this morning, so I'm incredibly grateful. And we are going to record this so you can share or go back and look. I know that there's a lot of folks who couldn't be here. So I just wanted to start by thanking you all for joining us. My name is Emily Blistein. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the Business Strategy Director for Let's Grow Kids. And I just want to thank you all so much for being here. As your registrations were rolling in, we have bakers and photographers and filmmakers and farmers and chefs and beverage makers and artists and letterpress printers. And frankly, this would make an amazing party, just all of you together. So it's been incredibly exciting. So my work at Let's Grow Kids is with the business community. That means I'm in charge of elevating and amplifying the business voice in support of high quality childcare. It also means that I'm constantly searching for a diversity of voices like yours across industries, across regions, and across sizes to really be able to share this story of why high quality childcare is crucial for your family, for your business, for your community, and for the economic revitalization of the state. So I'd like to start by thanking a few organizations who are joining us today. These are folks who help get the word out and also work with women every day to support your businesses. I'm going to take a drink of water first because this is a long list. So we have the Center for Women in Enterprise, the Women Business Owners Network, the Vermont SBA, the Womenpreneurs, VBSR, Mercy Connections Small Business Program, On the Fly, and VSET. And I'm also joined by my colleagues today, Shayla, Anna, Natalie, Emily, and Hannah, who will be hosting our breakout sessions, and Drake, who will be giving you a policy overview. Maria also organized the registration and the Zoom magic today. So in a moment, Drake is going to give you the policy overview, and we're going to break into smaller groups to tell our stories. But I'm going to begin by modeling mine, and mine starts in 2010. I opened a small shop on Main Street named Clementine in Middlebury. I had no background in entrepreneurship and no idea what I was doing. I found out I was pregnant a month later. I was able to take 8 weeks off thanks to some great employees, and then my baby and I came back to work. I wore him and nursed him, which is a great thing about being a boss. You can nurse whenever you want. And we were in the shop together, and then something happened. Other babies and other dogs in particular would come in and he would just light up. And I just knew in my bones that I wasn't meeting all of his developmental needs. And I knew that if I couldn't keep my business and do that. So that was in April. And childcare centers that I called were having openings in September, and I could get in then if I was lucky. Um, and we were lucky, but that began 5 years of bouncing around. We had one home-based program, two center-based programs. We were incredibly lucky. I had access to high quality care, but it was a juggle every single day. I was both able to have my business because of childcare, but my business was also shaped by childcare. And nearly all of my net income went to childcare and healthcare costs. Um, for example, I wanted to stay open until 6 because we were on Main Street and I believed in stores staying open later, but I closed at 5:08 every day and ran as fast as I could to my car because that was the last minute that I could leave and still make it to pick up my kid. And then I would get to my 4-year-old with a sad face saying, "Mama, I'm always the last kid," which was not factually accurate. I would like point out other children, but it still became this tug. Um, so I had 5 employees and 4 of them left, one right after another because they got pregnant. Um, my 4th was Megan, who's an amazing artist, and she was registered today, and I can't see if she's on yet, but she was so incredible for my business. I realized how it could grow with her, and I realized I would really do anything I could to keep her. But I also knew that the cost of childcare basically was wiped out by what I paid her, or what I paid her was wiped out because of childcare. I brought my son with me, so I said if she wanted to bring her kid with her, she could, but that's not a sustainable childcare solution for an employee or an employer. And truthfully, I can't imagine what my business would have been like or if I would have stayed open longer if I'd had access to childcare and that hadn't been a limiting factor. So this is all to say I know what it's like to adjust every day and to constantly do the math of childcare costs and staffing and wondering how to keep my energy going and driving my business forward. And as a mom and a former business owner, I know how much it means for you all to take an hour. So I am incredibly grateful for your time. I'm also really excited to make your stories part of this movement. Collectively, it's your stories that are going to move Vermont forward on childcare. So I can't wait to bounce around and hear them all. It's really been one of the great joys of my career to work with women like you. My shop was filled with independent artists and customers, and childcare was honestly one of the most primary conversations we had. That's where I met Sarah Keck from Bees Wrap, and in our early business owning days, we strapped our toddlers into high chairs and fed them so that I could take pictures of her product in her kitchen. And we were constantly talking about, as she hired employees, how she could do that. And still maintain and support them and grow the business. She couldn't be here today, but she sent her warmest wishes to all of you. And it's also been a particular joy this year to work with Adeline Verart, who's the president of Vermont Creamery. They are giving you a little gift today along with Bees Wrap, but also Adeline and her team has been so incredibly generous with their time for our movement. So I'm gonna let her say a few words to you right now and just thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be here with all of you.
Yay, thank you, Emily. Can you hear me? Okay, it's a year later and I still have to say that. That's okay. Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I'm honored to see that this wall of talented, amazing women entrepreneur. It's wow, it's quite a pleasure. And boy, if we had this event live, that would have been epic, I think. I'm just, yeah, feeling the energy in the room and the passion for this topic. So I'm a mom. I have 2 young boys. I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old. And I grew up within the business of Vermont Creamery. I came in this country 18 years ago. I'm a cheesemaker, so maybe I can call myself a little bit an artist as well. I went to the National Dairy School, so I learned cheesemaking. I joined Vermont Creamery as an intern, and we were a small business at the time. And then through passion for cheese and then amazing people that I got to work with and for, I grew up in the business and got promoted 5 years ago to president of the company. What I've learned early on is being mentored and inspired by a woman leader, such as Aison Hooper, the co-founder, that happened also to be a working mom with 3 boys. I think when she started the business of Vermont Creamery, she had 3 boys under the age of 3. really helped me to become who I am, whether it's being a leader, but also a working mom. And childcare has been such a challenge. I didn't realize that that would hit me at the same time that I'm hit by learning how to be a mom. But quickly became a kind of a hard realization of, working long hours, and the daycare opens at 7:30 in the morning and close at 5. Like, that's not going to work for me. I also travel for business. So what am I going to do for my child? Obviously, my family and my husband's family is back in France. So I was like, wow, the support system is not supportive whatsoever. And then quickly started to also realize, like, wow, I can figure out the nanny, the babysitter. I have everybody on speed dial. But then I was thinking of my staff, the women, the parents I have at Vermont Creamery. We have 140 employees. 85% of our employees are in manufacturing. And the hours are first shift, second shift, and third shift. If they don't if they don't show up to start the line or run the line because the daycare is closed, or because there is a snow day, or because there is absolutely no access to childcare, that means the business don't run. And so it became clear to me that we needed to completely revamp this whole system. It hasn't evolved, right? Now women are in the workplace. And it's like, how are we going to support working parents to really thrive and be successful, in addition of obviously supporting children? So really helping partnering with Let's Grow Kids, being part of the think tank was a very important mission of mine, only to help my employee, but instead of trying to solve that as a unique business on our own, like, should we have a daycare on site for our employees, yes or no? It's like, let's combine our energy and needs to create systemic change for the state of Vermont. So every parent, whether they work at Vermont Creamery or elsewhere, every parents, every children have the opportunity to have quality, affordable, and accessible childcare. So we're on the verge of, if this bill passed, to be the first in the country to kind of break ground on this issue. And I'm very excited. I think women in general have such an important role to play, because now we are leaders, we are groundbreakers, and we're also parents. And if we don't have that support system, we're not going to be able to continue to make progress. And actually, some of you, I'm sure, have heard the impact of COVID and the pandemic on women leaving the workforce 8 times faster than men. This is because we don't have that support system. And that's why the urgency is now, so we can get our women back in the workplace and support parents in general in our state. So excited to be with you, and I'm going to pass it back on to Emily.
Thank you all. So we are going to next break out into breakout sessions and then come back for a fuller policy overview. But I am going to turn it over to Drake right now, just to give you the big sky picture of what our movement is looking for.
Thanks, Emily. And thank you all for joining. This is such an inspiring group of women. I can't wait to break into smaller groups and get to talk to you all more. But my name is Drake Turner. I'm the policy manager at Let's Grow Kids. And as Emily said, I just want to speak very briefly about our vision for Vermont's childcare system. When we come back from breakout groups, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into what we're working on this year in our legislative strategy. But essentially, in January, Let's Grow Kids launched a 3-year legislative campaign to really achieve the childcare system that we know Vermont needs and deserves. So what our work is really guided by is a set of goals, and they're very ambitious and lofty, but we also really think they're achievable. So I just want to take a couple of minutes to run through what we mean when we say we want to achieve this system, and then I'm excited to chat with you all more. So we want a system that's accessible, and what that means is pretty self-explanatory, that children from all backgrounds and abilities have access to high-quality childcare when and where they need it, and not months or years later. We really want to achieve a system that's truly affordable. And what that means for us is that no family will spend more than 10% of their income on childcare, which is definitely ambitious, but you gotta have big goals to achieve them. And we know that currently folks are spending much more than that. So that's our guiding star. We want this system to be of the highest quality, and that really starts with the supports for early childhood educators. So our future vision envisions a system where every child is taught by qualified early childhood educators who are fairly compensated and well supported. And then we also know that the system needs to be accountable and sustainable. So we want to make sure there are really well coordinated and transparent governance, administrative, and accountability structures, and that we have a sustainable, long-term, equitable funding structure for the system, because we know it's going to be expensive, but just so worth it, and something that is really going to help children and families, help businesses, help early educators, and be crucial to our continued recovery from the pandemic. So that's what we're pushing for. We're excited to talk to you more about your own experiences, and then again, I'm going to dig into more details when we come back. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you, Drake. So now is the point where you get like sucked into a breakout room. So bear with us. We're going to try, we might have to move you around a little bit, but you stay put. We also are an organization that always says hello to kids and babies if we know their names. So we see a couple on the call. It's always good to see Nora pop in, and Kara's baby is here with us too today. So feel free to have your kids in the background, and we're going to zoom into breakout rooms now. Marissa is going, well, there she is. Great.
Yep, I got her.
Right, so I'm going to hand it over to Drake to give you the nuts and bolts of the policy. And we wanted to bring you all back for this because folks tend to have similar questions. So we wanted you to be able to ask your questions and hear the answers together. All right, Drake.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. And thank you, everyone. I'm sure that all the other groups were just as fantastic as my group was. It was so wonderful to hear from folks and be able to talk about this important issue. So thank you all for participating. So as I said before we broke into groups, I want to zoom in a little bit into what we've been working on this year. So we have this 3-year legislative campaign, and year one of that campaign is really focused on a bill that is currently under consideration in the legislature called H-171. And it has like kind of a long technical name, but we just call it the child care bill. And that bill really includes sort of our longer term goals and important steps to make toward achieving those and sort of building toward the vision that I mentioned earlier. And also some immediate investments that we know are needed in our childcare system now to keep everything stable and keep us on the path to our future system. So I want to quickly go through what is in the bill, and then I'll give a quick update on the progress that we've made so far this legislative session. And then I also want to leave time for questions. And I'm sure this is going to be a review for some of you, because I know that a lot of folks are really engaged with our policy work. So I apologize if this is a repeat of stuff you already know. But what the bill does is it describes goals for the state that by the end of 2025, families will spend no more than 10% of their income on childcare, and that the early childhood educators are fairly compensated and supported. It's a thing that they're going to be studying in the bill, so it's really important. There is also funding in the bill to continue the transformation of Vermont's childcare financial assistance program. So the bill would expand eligibility for that program, and families currently participating would have lower out-of-pocket costs for childcare, and it would increase reimbursements to childcare programs. So that makes really important progress on the affordability goal that I mentioned earlier. It also would upgrade our state's failing IT system around the childcare financial assistance program. And that's a really key part of continuing our work to move forward on affordability and making life easier for programs to have to navigate those systems. The bill also has some really important immediate investments for the early childhood education workforce. So our long-term vision is to ultimately increase wages for early childhood educators, which we know is requires substantial investment. So what we're really focused on in H-171 is sustaining and helping to strengthen the current and prospective workforces. So what's in the bill are investments in existing scholarships for early childhood educators, creating a new scholarship program for prospective early childhood educators, and as well as creating a student loan repayment support program to help bring more people into the field and to support current early childhood educators to remain in the field is super important for access and making sure we have enough slots for folks. And then there are a number of studies in the bill that in a lot of ways are the heart of the bill, because we know for the vision that we have for Vermont's childcare system, we have to really determine what's the best way to sort of govern and provide accountability structures for our early childhood education system. So there's a systems analysis in the bill that would develop recommendations on how to strengthen and streamline all of those systems. There's also a couple of work groups in the bill that will dig deeper into federal money that's coming into Vermont. The American Rescue Plan Act that was passed earlier this year by Congress has about $47 million specifically for childcare in Vermont. So we want to make sure that there are stakeholder voices at the table to help advise the state on the best way to invest those funds. And then the last piece of the bill would charge experts with identifying a stable long-term funding source for a transformed childcare system. So, those are there. So there's a balance of sort of immediate investments and then laying the foundation for the longer term work that we need to do. And that, continuing that work, organizing in communities is really the second and third years of our legislative campaign. But we're really laser focused on H171 right now. At least I am, the policy team. And what is really exciting that I can share also is that the bill is really strong in the legislature. So it started in the House. We had 95 co-sponsors on the bill, from Democrats to Republicans to independents to progressives, just a really strong showing of support. And then the bill ended up passing out of the House on a vote of 146-1, which is also just a significant major achievement for a bill like that, and a really strong message that the legislature stands behind this bill, and also a result of folks all across the state making sure that their elected officials know how important childcare is to them. So it's currently in the Senate. The Senate Health and Welfare Committee is taking testimony on the bill. My colleague Sarah Kenny actually testified this morning to that committee. And we know that there's a lot of support in the Senate as well. So we're really excited about the bill. I think Adeline mentioned earlier that this bill needs to pass, and we're really confident that the support it has already shown and seen from legislators will continue. And we also know that there's just so much support for this bill in communities across Vermont. So with that said, I would love to open up the floor for questions that anyone has, or if anyone wants to talk about anything that I've mentioned already. I'm going to shut up for a second. And feel free to just unmute yourself and ask. Oh, I see a question in the chat about who was the one who voted no. That was Representative Art Peterson from Rutland.
It was not popular with his colleagues.
No.
I know it's not the point, but did he talk about why he voted no? I mean, that's pretty striking to have that kind of vote, those numbers.
Yeah, so we asked for a roll call vote, which is why we know the specific representative who voted no. And he's I would say he's a conservative Republican. He's a new legislator. So it could be for any number of reasons. He didn't really elaborate on why. But we're choosing to focus on the 146 who voted yes. So.
Drake, can you talk at all about what's happening with some of the, one of the problems we have in Vermont, especially if H171 passes, is there's not enough childcare, and it's not easy to build it. That's a lot of what I do with communities right now. Do you know if any of the money that's coming in from the COVID-19 resources is going to be used to help expand, either help current childcare programs expand or help open new programs in places where there just simply isn't enough childcare?
Yeah, that's a great question, Reva. I think when it comes to the federal funding, I think we're still learning more about what are the allowable uses for that funding, right? Because often you hear about the bill passing and then all the details about yes, this, no, that come much later. So in H171, there actually would be 2 work groups that would be formed to dig deeper. There's 2 buckets of federal funding that Vermont will receive that are going to have slightly different rules and regs around what they can be used for. So those 2 working groups would look deeply into what are the best uses of funding and what's allowable, what isn't. And capacity, I believe, and I have the bill language right here, I can confirm this, but I think as access, especially to infant care, is one of the things that they're going to be looking at, because I know that's often where accessibility is like the biggest issue is among infants. So absolutely, I think we have until the end of either 2023 or 2024, I can't remember right now, to spend this federal money. So I know that the state is really looking to make sure we're investing that money in the most strategic ways to support the system now, and capacity is a huge part of that. You're exactly right.
So I'll just add one thing you'll find if you start having conversations about this with your friends is that one of the first things folks will say is, well, why can't we just take it out of the education money that already exists? And I don't know if I could sort of pretend to pose that question to Drake, but I feel like that it's really helpful for folks to understand how unique this system is. And how, part of the group that Adeline was part of, we brought a few of our business leaders together to think through the process of this funding, right? And really what they came to was the idea that they wanted to make sure there was a funding source that was sustainable, that was actually connected to the issue of childcare, and that it was one source. So sure, maybe we could cobble together from 8 different revenue sources, but we really wanted to make sure that this one would be long lasting and sustainable. And unfortunately, oh look, I guess I'm answering my own question. But one of the things, almost all of them, I would say, came to us saying, can't we take this out of the education funding? And what they've all sort of come to realize is that that system is so entrenched and it is so hard to sort of unlock those monies that maybe we can get to a point where that would happen. But right now, people have been saying for decades, can't we just take it out of the education funding? And it hasn't happened. And so what's happened is a generation of kids has been lost, right? And so a lot of what our advocates are able to say now is like, we want to move this forward now. We don't want to wait for another generation of kids to not get the high quality childcare they need. So I guess one thing to think of when we have Drake, we should probably move to Anna soon too, but like and feel free to use us as a resource anytime that you get those hard questions from your friends, because we're spending a lot of time trying to answer them for ourselves. I'm working with the business community who certainly has a lot of ideas about how we should do this. So we would really welcome those questions because they make us better at our jobs too.
Yeah, I'll echo that. It's so helpful to know what folks are hearing, the conversations that you're having with your colleagues, with your friends, to know, what folks are wondering about is super helpful for us. And there was another question that was directly to me, which I think might be a good transition into Anna, Emily, is about whether or not the Senate Health and Welfare Committee is on board with the bill, or if there's someone in the Senate that needs to hear from all of us. So, and I'll just say that the Senate Health and Welfare Committee is, there's one new member on that committee, but the folks who are returning senators, we know are childcare champions and are super supportive. H171 is one of their top priorities as a committee. But it's always important for your elected officials to hear from you. On the Senate side, we're definitely aware that because we have far fewer senators than members in the House, folks email inboxes are often flooded. So we're thinking of different ways to help connect folks to their elected officials, but it's always important to hear about how childcare matters to you. And it might be a good time to switch to our take action.
Yes, so what can you do? We love when people ask what they can do. And Anna, nobody is better suited to answer that question than Anna.
Thank you so much, Emily. Yes, I'd love to answer Adeline's question. How can this group of people in particular take action to really help us get over this finish line? I saw that Stephanie shared in the chat, she has a 2-week-old baby right now in her home, and let's make this happen before that child's in kindergarten, right? We don't have time. We don't have time to wait on this. So my name's Anna. I'm field director for the Let's Grow Kids Action Network, and we're all about taking action and actually just getting things done. And then most importantly, bringing our voices together, because as one person, as one entrepreneur, as one mother, you can feel really overwhelmed. Like, what can I do to make a difference? You know, I'm just barely getting by myself. But when we come together and we recognize we're not alone, and that the 37 of us here on this Zoom call have a shared experience, and then to know that there's hundreds of other people across the state, even thousands of people who support this issue, our collective voice can really make a difference. So the first thing you can do is you can sign on in support of our policy agenda that we talked about today. And that's a link that Natalie's going to put in the chat. And I would encourage you, if you haven't signed on to that yet, just go ahead and click that right now. It's really simple. You add your name, your address. You can also sign on in support as a business. So if you're the owner of your business, you can check that box and add your business name, and we will be sure to list you as the businesses who support this, because this has become a really much broader economic issue. And when businesses stand up and say, we have to find a solution for this because our economy depends on it, that really gets the attention of our legislators, our policymakers, and the Senate Health and Welfare Committee, who's talking about it right now, and the Senate Appropriations Committee is going to talk about it next. So that's a critical thing. Again, that shows the breadth of support we have for this issue across the state. And then the second thing that you can do, especially if you've already done that, is you can actually contact your legislators. And we make this quick and easy with this simple form you can click on. This in particular is to say thank you to your House members. So like Drake said, we're focused on those 146 legislators who voted yes. That is actually historic, right? It's really unprecedented to have such incredible support in the House. And we want to make sure that they feel like super excited to get this across the finish line. And it's so important for them to hear from constituents who say, thank you so much. So this is a simple form. Again, name and address goes in the first page. When you click next, it'll show you your particular legislators who voted yes on this. You can just push send and it'll send a great message. Or you can click in and you can add, we encourage you to add at the beginning. So the first thing they see is like, hi, this is my name, this is where I live, this is the business I own, and this is why childcare is so important to me. And then leave the second part that says, thank you so much for voting yes, and then click send. But if you don't have those couple of seconds to write your own sentence, it's fine to just send what we already drafted for you. And then I'm going to add another thing in here, which someone asked about, which is, can you invite friends to join this movement? And how can you encourage them to share their stories? So I would say, number one, send them the policy agenda and ask them to sign on. But you can also send them this link to a form on our website where they can add their story and we can follow up with them personally. Or you can send them Emily's email address or my email address. That's what we do. We specialize in actually having one-on-one conversations, much like you had in your breakout groups with people and supporting them in sharing their stories. And then finally, this movement is so critical, and like so many others that we've seen successful, we ask that people show their support by giving a gift, even $5, as again, that spreads across the state, and we've got thousands of people giving $5 will really make all the difference in us getting this over the finish line. There's so much more, and I just want to finally say that I love seeing all the connections that are happening in the chat. I love to see people connecting with each other, and again, that's such an important piece. So we hold action team meetings where like-minded people come together who are passionate about taking action on childcare, and we really dig into the details, like what does your senator need to hear right now? How can you take specific action to make that happen? And we've got some actions this month that are around sharing targeted social media posts and tagging your senators in those, or just sharing it for your friends and family to sign on to our policy agenda. So check out our Facebook page. We also highlight business owners and early educators and parents who are real spokespersons for this. So if that's something you're interested in, let us know. And then we're also sending handwritten letters to senators. So if you're interested in that and you'd like support with that, there's action teams, and also even the person you connected with on the Let's Grow Kids staff and your breakout group can support you with that. Okay, I tried to do all of that as fast as I could. Thank you guys so much. I can't wait to be in touch.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you to all of my colleagues and all of you for showing up today. This is the event that I've frankly, we're recording. There's so much I'm not saying because we're recording, but this is the event that I've been waiting to do for 3 years since I had my own small business. This is all of the work that you're doing is really where my heart is. And I'm so excited to hear your stories. And what I like to say to folks is the one thing that I love about being on this side of the work is that we want to hear your problems now. We want to elevate those problems and make sure our elected officials know that there is something to solve and that you are going to be there continuing to push for that. So we, think of the ways that you can tell that story, and we will find ways to highlight you. Thank you for spending an hour with us, and thank you for thinking of other people that you can connect us with. And thank you. And we've got some follow-up goodies for you too. And so look for an email from us with all of that information and also ways to connect, because you really are incredibly strong already and stronger together. Thank you all so much. Go eat your lunch in 2 minutes.